Let's see who shows up. I don't know if anybody can hear the cat in the background. The cat is howling right now. No, don't come in here. Hey. Excuse me, nice cat. It's a good cat, but she's loud right now. Do you want some attention? If you come up here, we calm down. Come here. Hang on. Okay. Chapter's about 5 minutes. Let's see if we get some nice folks to come in and chat. Come see what's going on with the Lucy and Kyria chapter. I assume it's going to be a Lucy and Kyria chapter, but it could be anything. Well, I don't expect to get the Igni and Selene confrontation yet. I assume, based off the ending of the last chapter, that we're going to get a focused Selene Kyria chapter. What's up, bud? How's it going? I'm just going to post my name on Twitter real quick. Alright. So, other than that, what's up, Jeff? 102. Remember, I'd like to stream. Yeah, I would appreciate it. Anytime. Anytime you guys would like to stream, I would appreciate it. Any donations are appreciated. They're not required, but they are appreciated, as said. Anyway, yeah, so I'm still expecting Lucy to have, like, a medium level difficulty with Kyria. Like how I see Lucy at the end is kind of like how Gray and Urza were with their fights with Hokune and Yoko. Because Yoko is maybe, like, I think maybe that Hokune, maybe Yoko would be a maybe win for Kyria. I don't think Kyria could beat Hokune just based off of how Hokune works. I think Hokune would just completely just freeze her, like, immediately and then just run her over. Lucy's Bay, that is true. We get some Lucy action going. Yeah, I want to see how she's going to win. Because, like, I don't expect her to use Aranometria unless Mishima has Kyria tank it. Because that would be cool, because that would show that Kyria is stronger than Mimi. Because right now I would place Mimi above Kyria, but if Mishima wanted to do that, obviously it would be a really cool tell that also pushes Kyria's level up, which would be really nice. Maybe Kyria a little stronger over the last time they fought as well, just not as much. That would be pretty cool. Maybe she's just kind of like fighting with a little bit more seriousness. Maybe she thinks about some teachings from Misaki, and she ends up kind of like, instead of getting stronger, it's more of like a technique thing, like, because she becomes a little bit more serious, a little less reckless. She's able to hone her skills a little bit more, where it just makes her a little bit stronger, not by a lot. I don't know. It's just going to depend on, like, what he wants to do with it. I just don't expect him to end it the same way that he did with Mimi, because Aranometria obviously is, like, the double Lucy Aranometria is, like, Lucy's biggest attack spell, at least as of current. But I don't think Mishima is going to just reuse that again, considering that was her last fight with Mimi. But it's going to depend. I think it would actually be really cool if Kyria tanked it and got out, but at the same time, I don't want that to happen, just because outside of Mimi standing up to pass out, like, nobody's ever really tanked Aranometria. And I wouldn't even say that was tanking it, because, like, Angel got up and then kind of, like, stepped twice and then just fell over again. But it's still something that nobody's really ever kind of, like, tanked and then just kept fighting continuously and been fine. It's always done excessive damage to complete defeat, or that, like, last kind of like death throws. Not like an actual death, but like the term when it's their last movements before they're done, kind of thing. Cancer X Taurus. I think that or Caprico would be the best thing, because Taurus would provide her with extremely enhanced strength, but Caprico would enhance her skill and technique. So she would essentially become a extremely precise and skilled swordsman. I guess swordswoman because Lucy's a chick. Without having to do any actual sword training, which would be really cool. Taurus would be really cool too. I think the Cancer Taurus would be at that point, I think would just run over Kyria, like unless Kyria like just it decides to again play smarter. But I think Lucy would try and play a lot smarter because I think like with technique already being better, I assume that if she amped it even further, that Kyria would just be getting trounced like at her own style of fighting and not just in like a brief moment in like totality of it. Anyway, the chapter it should be out. I'm gonna go see it right now, and we'll talk about what goes down in this chapter. Hold on. Okay, 102 is out. So let's see. What's the cover? The cover, it's Gray and Juvia. Gray is like a pilot, and I think Juvia is the co-pilot, and they're like flying into a city. So just like a nice little ship one. Kiri is opens up. Kiri is obviously embarrassed that she had her clothes cut. Now, the thing that before we even get to it, I want to know because I think it's the thing about the situation that Kiri is in that made it more interesting for me from a kind of questionable standpoint is like Lucy when she used to get her clothes like destroyed in what way or other, clothes stolen or whatever, she would have to find clothes, and then when she got her star dress, or Virgo would bring her clothes, but when she got her star dress ability, she could just like you store clothes, switches into star dress, bam, she's got clothes on again, and she's fine. Kiri though, unless she's got a requip or she's about to get clothes somehow, I don't know how she's going to cover herself up. And that's another question for me. I like that. I was always a fan that Lucy overcame that situation in reality because unless she's in a situation where she can't use magic, she can just put on her star dress, be good. Whereas Kyria is, cannot as far as we know. So I'm actually very curious to how she's gonna fix it. Like I don't even like think about this part as a fan service. It's just like a mechanical standpoint from like how their abilities work. It's like how's she gonna get around this? Like is she gonna just fight naked or what's she gonna do? I am gonna honestly say I do like seeing Kyria like all embarrassed just because like she like looking back at like how she was to Urza and how she was to Lucy, it's some good karma. So they're just kind of talking, and I guess she doesn't care. She doesn't seem to really care. I don't know if it's just because she's annoyed she's being taunted, or it's because both of them are just two girls and maybe she doesn't care as much. But she just decides like, fuck it, I'm gonna go in and just fight naked, which I thought was pretty funny. Okay, Laxus shows up. Now, how's this gonna go? So, man, I gotta pause. I don't. So, the Laxus Kyria plot line, like subplot, I liked. I always liked that very odd, like little addition in there because it adds a connection that is just like a little bonus. But I was never too sure of where it was gonna go in the story outside of like eventually maybe that will be Laxus's like actual ship. Who knows? I still think it should be. I still think that they have the best one. And anybody who's here, I'll read the chat afterwards. I don't want to read the chat while I'm reading the chapter, just in case somebody gets ahead of me, because I'm trying to take the reaction at a good pace. But I wasn't too sure of like how it was gonna behave in this whole situation, and like unless it was after the Lucy Kyria fight. So now I'm just wondering how it's gonna go. I really hope Laxus doesn't interfere, just because I want this to be Lucy's fight. I'm gonna be really annoyed if Laxus just like smashes Kyria and that's it. If this is done to be, say, it's just done to kind of like be in a funny situation where Kyria gets more embarrassed because she's obviously as a thing for Laxus, then okay. But outside of that, I don't really know where this is gonna go. Let's just find out. So Laxus is there. She gives Laxus gives her his coat. That was pretty nice. Again, Laxus getting his Chad points, helping Kyria out. I like that. I thought that was pretty cool. But like, so she kind of like buttons up Laxus' coat. I actually like the design on her. It looks pretty cool. But outside of that, I want Laxus to move. Laxus doesn't need to be here. We already know Laxus can completely destroy Kyria. There's no reason for him to be in the fight. And for Laxus, I don't think there's any gain for him. Because he's not gonna get stronger by demolishing Kyria. Like he's not gonna gain anything. And we know right now that he needs to get stronger because Kieran is out there. So I don't think that he should intervene. And on top of that, I think Lucy has this. I think it would really agitate me for Laxus to just completely invalidate Lucy's fight, because I want Lucy to have this battle. I again really liked Lucy getting like good revenge on a character that is actually relevant and a pretty powerful fighter, a Dragon Slayer, obviously. So it doesn't look like Laxus is going to intervene, but he's trying something. Hang on, Kyria might be trying something on Laxus. That's what I'm worried about. Again, I'm not halfway in the chapter. I'm just like right now. I just have a fear. I don't want Kyria to lose to Laxus again. Just because I know it's like yeah, obviously, like if it was in reverse where Scoleon and Madmal were still up and we saw Kyria run into Laxus and losing it, I'd say okay. Because then I'd be like, well, she's just gonna get kicked out, and then we'll get down to other people. But obviously, it was set in the Lucy fight, and I really don't want it to get taken from her. But she seems to want to kind of like mess with both of them. Laxus is just trying to, being Laxus, be intimidating. She goes for an attack, and he uses a different type. She uses a different type of hypnosis on him, and it seems to affect him. So now she okay. So I think maybe the way that it's doing it, and maybe this is what's going on, is she used a different kind of hypnosis. Because what we know is she doesn't just cut strength; she cuts thing, uses hypnosis to like mess with your mind, so it has that effect to kind of like whatever she's cutting is taken away. That's why like cutting strength gives you a weak personality while you're under the hypnosis. So whatever she did to Laxus, I can't really tell. Maybe it's like a motion sickness thing, because Laxus is just kind of there, but I don't think so. He seems to be listening to her, but we know that the strength thing doesn't work on him. So it just is going to depend on once we get translations of what she went for. Because say she went for maybe she went for like loyalty or something, or like disobedience, and then maybe it like made him obedient to her or something. I don't really know. I also like that she's not using Laxus to fight Lucy, so it's Lucy versus Laxus. I don't want that either, because that's not the focus here. It's Lucy versus Kyria. So she's using her hypnosis to now take Laxus out of the fight. So Laxus was used to get her a coat, pretty much, and then put on the side for after the battle. I like that. So maybe that'll be like where I said that all of her interactions with Laxus as like a ship thing will be after the fact of the fight, which I think will be better for her side of the character, will also benefit both her and Lucy for the fight. So that's pretty cool. And that does get her clothing in a logical way that sets up something for after the fight. So that's cool. Again, I like that. So they're just battling. Lucy's got her two blades. Kyria's blocking. Kyria does look really cool in the Laxus coat, I gotta say. And it looks like she's doing. She uses like an actual technique, not just like swinging her swords around. Oh, Kenmano, I will read your super chat. I do see it. Let me finish the chapter, and then I will get to it. She uses a technique. She does like a weird cross cut, and it breaks Lucy's swords. So this is about where I was expecting, because what we saw, and this was I think a really important thing that was shown for the opening of their fight, when base Lucy was reacting to Kyria, but Kyria was clearly above base Lucy. Then we see Lucy in her star dress, just her normal one key star dress, was able to overtake that version of Kyria, that level of effort of Kyria. So Kyria putting in more effort is starting to push back against Lucy at that stage. So Lucy is going to have to put in more effort and probably bring out more techniques, more strategy. She's fighting by herself right now in just Star Dress. She doesn't have any of her keys out, or any of her summons rather. So maybe she'll start bumping up to that. Maybe she'll start setting up a strategy, or she'll start using her Star Dress mix. We'll see. It's just going to depend on really what she wants to do and what she has planned for Kyria. Kyria's just going for more general attacks. Lucy tries to go. Oh, she digs out her whip and it cuts through it and it like slashes across her chest. Have we seen that? I don't think Lucy's whip has ever been damaged. Like, legitimately, I don't think Lucy's whip has ever been like cut like that, now that I think about it. That's actually really impressive. Okay, Lucy's going to Star Dress Mix. I'm on the next page and I see the two keys. She goes in her Virgo and Leo one, her kind of like standard Star Dress mix, and goes for the Leon Maiden attack, and just kind of like blast that in front of her.
But Kyria actually cuts through it. That's actually okay. Kyria is doing way better in this fight than I thought she's gonna be. So Lucy is gonna have to. I think Lucy is gonna have like a limit break moment. So that's actually good. I'm fine with this if Lucy wins in the end, because this I expect Lucy to win in the end, just because like I would be legitimately surprised if Lucy loses. If Lucy loses, I would be shocked, just because that would be really crazy after all this for her still to have like defeat. I don't think so. I still legitimately think that she's going to win. This just seems like some like because at the very end of the chapter, she's like slashed, and it kind of looks like her hand is cut off, but I feel like that's not the case. I don't know if it's gonna be like this is Gemini, but it's like we see blood. There's some definite questions to come up. I'm not gonna fall for it because obviously I don't think Lucy's dead, but it's like I'll be legitimately shocked if Lucy loses a limb, or if I think the craziest thing is like that is Lucy's guild mark. Now I'll talk about something really quick, just out of like the maybe is like Mishima has always done time stuff. Anybody who's read Mishima's series like more than one, you don't have to read all three. You just read. You need to read all of it. You just kind of like know chunks of like any two of three, or obviously all three. But Mishima loves time stuff, and he brought something up in Rave Master that I think might apply to his general time like thoughts. Or sorry, not a Rave Master, Eden Zero, of his general like his. Had a take on time in Eden Zero that I think might relate to his general takes on time and how he sees it. Where even if you alter something that was going to happen in time, time will eventually try to move back towards that. And we know that like Lucy in the future lost her arm. So like it's a different timeline that isn't connected to this one anymore, but what if time is trying to re-steer that? I don't know. I don't think she lost her arm. I think this is obviously just like my guess is that it's a like the arm thing is the weird part. If it was just Lucy dramatically cut, I would say yeah, like that's definitely um like that could just be high damage. It's the angle of the arm that I wonder. That's the only thing. But it's like I don't know. I'm happy actually about both because they both are doing pretty good. But this was a chapter more about curious momentum. And again, if Lucy's not doing as good this week, I'm perfectly fine with that because it means Kyria is looking better this week. So if Lucy manages to win, then she doesn't just win by stomping somebody who's trash to her. It's somebody who's like way too weak. So if like she's able to get like a really good win out of this, it will mean that like her value of victory against an opponent will be bigger. We'll just have to wait. It's gonna be 2 weeks. It's gonna suck because I expected Lucy to win this with like a medium level difficulty. It's looking like it's gonna be much harder for her. Like Kyria's strength was really hard to gauge because we never really saw the full extent of her strength against her fights with Urza, and we didn't get to see as much of the fight with Laxus. And the ceiling of where we believed she was at to Laxus is really big, so it was really hard to understand where she was at in that gap. But I figured it would be much lower. Again, I'm happy about this. I've mentioned this before. I really like the Diablos members. I'm happy about this. I even said before, if Kyria gets more spotlight and we get more value on Kyria, I'll be happy about it because Kyria was my least liked member of Diablos. If I had the whole list of Diablos, if I ranked them in order, Kyria, before I even got to them, it's one of those ones where it's like you rank. Like if you were going to talk about the power levels of the Spriggan, and before you even get to like the like harder ones, you know who's at the top, who's at the bottom. You know who's at the bottom. You know who people at the top: Irene, August, Larkane, and then you look at the bottom. You're gonna be like Agio and Jacob, and you're just gonna be looking at the tiny people. It's just what it is. But when it comes to Diablos, it's kind of the same thing with Kyria, both strength wise and my my personal interest in her. But this is actually raising up for her, so we'll see. I'm fine. Like I said, I already know people are gonna meme on me for Lucy obviously getting pressed more in this chapter. It is what it is, but I'm happy about it. like I said, I don't think she's dead, but I think she's getting pressed way more than I thought she was going to. So I'm perfectly fine with that. It's just gonna depend on how the fight ends. Because if Lucy loses, I will be really shocked. If she actually loses a hand, I'll be really shocked. But it's like that's a maybe. That's like a maybe it can happen thing. Whereas like obviously Lucy's not gonna die. Whereas like Lucy could lose a limb. I don't think so. Maybe though. Question mark. But outside of that, yeah, I want to get to Kiri's backstory. Like, we're getting a much better fight. I figured this could be one chapter. I actually didn't even mention one of the things I wanted to bring up, and I should have, like, if I started maybe 10 minutes earlier, I think I would have remembered to bring it up, is that I thought this would be the end of the chapter, or the end of the fight. I was going to say that it was going to probably be one chapter, a chapter and a half, maybe if we're lucky, but we could easily, like, it's one more chapter, 1.5 chapter maybe. Like, this could actually be a pretty long fight for Lucy, and I'm pretty hyped about that. So let me get to some of the comments. I just saw someone on there. Tippy, what's up? How's it going? Yeah, there's Kinmono super chat. Let me read Kinmono's really quick before I get to the other ones. What he says: Iraq's with Fairy Tail handles someone like Aizen, not in the I'm evil bad guy, but someone who hates authority. I mean, yeah, they're pretty much like that already. They don't really like people telling them what to do. So I think Aizen's whole anti-establishment kind of mindset would be fine in the guild. I'm sad how Kami is being treated in the new series. Well, the thing is, like, she can't. I'm a couple chapters behind, but she can't be the focus. She's not the main character anymore. You have to make sure you balance the old characters in a way that they have their moments, but they don't outshine. Not that they don't outshine the main cast. They don't take away the spotlight from them too much, where it stops feeling like their show. And I think kind of like how like Naruto is in Boruto is like a good example of that. Though he gets spotlight, he's obviously not the focus. He's like a big reoccurring character for obvious reasons. What's up, Luce Jr.? How are you doing today? Kiri should be able to cut through Akune's ice. The thing, like, I don't really think she could. And the thing is, like, once you get frozen by Kiri or by Hakune, that's it. That's it. You're frozen. You're done. You lose your ability to counter whatever your powers are. The dangerous thing about Hakune is not that she freezes you, is the fact that she freezes your powers, because that's how she's able to freeze Gray, because Gray didn't react fast enough, and she just made it so he couldn't use his powers in order to react, because he didn't get to the point where his reaction his adaptation didn't get fully in effect before her spell got fully in effect. It pretty much came down to whose ability went off first in full ability. And first time they fought, it was Gray. First time it was Kune. Second time it was Gray. I don't think Kiri would be able to. I think Kiri would get caught in it because Kiri. I think this chapter shows Kiria's value when she actually starts fighting more. Again, honed and more focused, whereas like we saw her way more reckless and way more just unhinged. So it's gonna depend on where things go from here. But I don't think she could beat Hakune. I really don't. I don't think that she would stand a chance against Hakune. Because like the thing about Hakune is like Hakune is like if Mard Gear went to Memento Mori on like his second attempt, because she does like the whole ice copies, and then after that she's like Diamond Effect, and then you just get done. That's just what it is. And it's like Mard Gear's like super dangerous ability is it's his ultimate ability, but generally a character isn't gonna just use their super broken ability right into the fight with little to no provocation for it. Like Hakune just went for it, and as we saw, she had other abilities. She went for her most broken one second, so like it just tells you like how dangerous of a mindset is. And like Suzaku is a good example of that too, of like how like the pacing of a fight can be completely different if a character goes for their much more dangerous abilities earlier, whereas like there are characters who pace themselves in fights and kind of like gauge their opponents. Like imagine if Urza went into all of her fights with her Nakagami armor and just like, okay, as long as they aren't like some super durable like Dragon Slayer or outside of magic users, you're pretty much good. As long as they're below Urza, she at that point is just going to cancel out their magic and chop through them. I hope Kyria will defeat Lucy. I'll be surprised. I don't think so. I assume Lucy's going to win because this is like a big revenge match for Lucy. So I assume Lucy is going to pull a victory. But I like that Lucy's chapter. What I assume is Lucy's chapter of kind of like her furthest down bad in her fight, and like next chapter I assume she'll turn it around. But I'm happy that it has a much more serious tone. I did like that. I thought that was, in comparison to her fight with Mimi, in that when you kind of look at it, assuming it's like this is the more Kyria hype moment, and then like the next chapter, maybe we'll get revealed of how Lucy's arm isn't cut off, or maybe it is cut off, or what's ever gonna happen to her. Like the status of her arm isn't the kind of like it's not the for sure. I think that one's a maybe. I don't think so. I'll put it as maybe, but if I had to guess, I'd say no. Whereas, like, obviously Lucy's not dead. I don't think, like, nobody's going to say Lucy's dead. But I would say that my guess is next chapter, whatever the reveal is of, like, again, say the status of her arm and her status of her ability to keep fighting, that she will start to... that she'll start to kind of like set up her fight. I actually am going to go through what she's done so far and really kind of like see if she's set up anything maybe that we haven't noticed. Because I didn't really even think about Gemini doing a Rotometria the way that she did. Or I guess it did. Gemini's weird. I guess they did because there's two of them. But it was something that made sense in setup. So it's going to depend on what Lucy's doing. I'm guessing Lucy's fine, especially because, for the most part, fine, because we know that also that Hologrium has like one auto death save. So, it's gonna depend on like where things go as the next chapter opens, because where that opens is going to say a lot about what's going on with it's gonna say a lot about what's gonna go on with like the rest of the fight. Like I said, it could be Lucy wins next chapter, or I guess Kyria can win, or it could be like maybe a chapter and a half. Igni interrupts her fight. I would hate that. I would hate that so much. I don't want that to happen. I was worried when Laxus showed up. Sorry if someone already said it, but if it'd be impressive for Lucy to defeat someone who defeat Urza in their first fight. Not entirely. I would say, from the perspective of Urza's fight, of what we saw, no. Like, the fact that she was keeping up with Urza, yes, that's it. Like, Lucy, Cancer, Stardust Lucy's feats against Kyria so far are looking better than what Urza at that level that she put into it early 100 Years Quest. Or Lucy being more impressive in that version, yes, but not Urza entirely. Because Urza didn't lose in a fight of actual combat. Urza lost to a hack. She lost getting caught in a hack's ability. So I wouldn't say entirely, obviously that's the case, but like Lucy, from what we saw, Stardust Lucy, or like Lucy right now is more impressive than early 100 Years Quest Urza. But it's not like Urza just outright lost to Kyria. Kyria got caught in something. You want some candy? Also, do you think Aaron's wrong? I don't have any candy actually. Aaron, yeah. I think Aaron's whole strategy was just bad. On top of that, he didn't. I don't know where the anime people are, so I don't really want to go too much into it. Plus, like, I'm not an Attack on Titan guy entirely. Like, I was like a casual Attack on Titan reader. Career finding, yeah, I thought that was actually kind of funny. She was pretty okay with it. Maybe Azure Dragon will have to spell to get her new armor. I think pretty neat. The thing is, like, Requip is a general spell, like telepathy. It's just like Urza and Biska and people like that are specialists at it and can do it in like large scale, high numbers. Like Makarov can use Requip. Like a lot of people can use Requip just to put on clothes. Can I have the 100 102 chapter, please. Well, you gotta get off the app. What's up, 100 Years Ago? How are you? Do like Kyria take Laxus? I like Kyria and Laxus more than Kyria, or more than Laxus and Mirajane. Doesn't Kinmano's post? Again, thank you very much, Kinmano, for the $50 super chat. Where do I read the chapter? It's off the Manga Poke app. Like Sources Weekly, Twitter, fan scans. That's the question. That's not me. Lucy win because they probably don't want to make it so that Rebecca has won the fights, but Lucy doesn't. What? And Rebecca, let's be honest, because I saw people tell me this the other day. I like Rebecca. I'm gonna say that outright. I like Rebecca. I think she's a fun character. I'm hoping she gets some actual fights with her new and improved. Almost take up there. New and improved Ether gear. Because we didn't really see anything from her overdrive other than the form. We didn't see her do anything other than like kick some fodder. So I would actually like to see her fight, but she does not have impressive feats at all. She does not have feats that would be dangerous for Lucy whatsoever. She has an impressive ability, and people are gonna always bring that up because like her old Cat Leaper and her ability to do the time reversal is a good ability, but what's it going to do? She shoots ether bullets and kicks. Lucy will be fine. Lucy will be completely fine. I saw people talk about like Lucy versus Rebecca, and I was just like, if you said Rebecca versus Ellie, sure, but like Lucy can fight. Like Lucy can actually fight. We've seen this for a while. Like since the Grand Magic Games, there's like every arc, there's been a large uptick of Lucy's ability to actually battle. Like Lucy's actual ability to fight 1v1. We have not really seen that with Rebecca. And this is my last thing I'll say about it. Rebecca's best legitimate fight, she won by sucking somebody up into a vacuum. She was smart in the way that she won, but it's not like she really won like a really impressive battle. So yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to like Eden Zero fans. I really like Eden Zero, but Eden Zero doesn't have really crazy power levels. Like a lot of their crazy things is more in like their, you know, big cosmic space monsters and sci-fi weaponry, which is fine. I like that more because it gives more again of that sci-fi space feel to Eden Zero. I've said this so many times. I don't want Eden Zero to ever get like One Piece, where the ship just feels like a non-factor. Because like ship battles don't really happen in One Piece because the characters are way more powerful than the people on than the actual ships. Whereas like Eden Zero spaceships are more important because you're traveling through space, not on water. But also I think it makes it keeps that again that sci-fi vibe. That the spaceships and the battles like with these spaceships are like it feels like more intense, larger scale than like the battles on the ground a lot of the time, and I like that. And some people might not like that I have that opinion on Eden Zero, but I do like that. I think it's pretty. I think it gives it I think it keeps one of the unique flavors of Eden Zero that Rave Master and Fairy Tail does not have. Is that again technological sci-fi fantasy aspect to it. Eden Zero, Rave Master and Fairy Tail have some sci-fi and like robot aspects to it, but like obviously it's like spiced in there where it's like that's a big focus of Eden Zero. Anyway, I think Lucy will be fine. Rebecca hasn't had any big fights recently, whereas like this is a chapter in a fight for Lucy. If Lucy loses, I'll be really impressed. I will be really impressed from a writing standpoint to have like Lucy brutally lose. I don't think so, because like the thing is, I feel like if Kyria beats Lucy, she's gonna just go try and execute her, because that just seems to be Kyria's character. But I don't think Lucy's gonna lose. I'm still confident Lucy's gonna win. If Lucy loses, I will humbly accept a loss. But until the fight is over, I will completely stick with Lucy winning in the end. But right now, obviously, she is getting pressed a bit, so we'll see. 2 weeks of waiting, yeah, it is what it is. The thing though about 100 Years Quest, and it's at the same time the most painful is 100 Years Quest doesn't have a lot of like content in the chapters of small time events. We don't have a lot of like, oh yeah, we're gonna kind of go peer over to these characters for like 3 pages that doesn't advance anything, but we're just seeing their interactions for no reason because we already know a lot of the characters' general interactions, and so we don't need as much examples of it. But it keeps the pace much faster, but in a more natural tone. And I've always liked that about it. But it's like when we get to like the side chapter, and I get the transitionary chapters, like in between arcs, and they're just kind of like fun, silly chapters. It makes it seem like forever in between actual story and content. Lucy's a lot of potential, and she doesn't know it. I mean, once Lucy starts like really getting broken with her keys, like once we get to like 3 keys, I think she's gonna be absurd. Or like Stardress mix with 3 summons out, and she's just like, imagine she's just sending in people, and then she's like just using like large scale AOE spells like to artillery fire on her opponents. I think Kiri Madden will be fine against Jacob, Agile, Nineheart, and Invul. Definitely not Nineheart. The thing about Nineheart is super situational in how he works, because he has like, imagine if you were a character his level, before Alvarez. So let's just say pre-Alvarez. You went up against him. Nobody in your life that you have, like, you've never killed anybody, and nobody in your life has ever died. His power is useless. There's nobody to summon. Whereas like his power is really situational in how it works, and like the thing that we've seen with Historia of the Dead, from a power level standpoint, is his Historias seem to come out at a set level. So it's like, regardless if they were weaker or stronger in life, they will be summoned at this specific level that Nineheart has for his minions. After events where Spriggan died, he has too many broken people. Like, him just summoning Bloodman is a nightmare for most people. Like, he's an intangible anti-magic cloud of demonic hacks. He's gonna be horrible for him. When like Agil, sure. I think they can handle Agil. Maybe not Madmal. It's gonna depend. Madmal's like, I really want to know about that technique Madmal showed way early on, where he like pointed at the water and made like the water hard. Because I wonder if he could do something like Agil tries to turn into sand, and then Madmal turns that spot that he is hard, so it's like canceling out his whole intangibility, and then hits it. So it's like, say his power, he could say nope to anybody that's intangible. His power just like his whole specialty is he can just nope intangible people, and he has like high durability and stuff. That'd be cool. I've always been fine with an idea like that. You have like a specialty. But like Scullion would be fine with him for sure. Kiri's a maybe. Jacob's is like also a maybe, because Jacob is a weird one. And Invul, no. And Invul, I think, would just flash freeze both of them. Some man will easily handle Gray, who beat up Invul. Oh, but that's just the power standpoint thing. But Invul would just use his True Eyes, and Madmal would end up clashing fists in him, and that's just playing right into Invul, and then bam, freezing him. Done. Shield guy handled Natsu. One shot Einhart. Shield guy. What shield guy? Oh, Madmal? Yeah, but how did that come down to, though? Natsu beat Nineheart. Well, Nineheart is a summoner. He's not a durable character. Whereas Madmal's whole thing is literally durability. And then Natsu figured out how to get around, he figured out how to work around the problem, and was able to push him back and win that round with him. I don't know anything about Bill Cipher. Irax, who curious your thoughts on why they're going to do Irene's character by the end of the story? Greetings from Singapore. I've been to Singapore, actually. I was in Singapore back in 2016. But it's going to really depend if, like the thing right now I want to wait with Irene is, does Mishima have anything planned with either Celine or Misaki? those are my guesses. I have a Misaki video that I've been thinking a lot about. I meant to put it out a while ago, but like I was hoping that we would find out something about Misaki, but we haven't really gotten anything other than like she has like a close relationship with Kiriya. So I wanted to wait until we at least have something about her character that I can maybe really go off of to not necessarily be an exact statement, but a like enough to really kind of they kind of like build on a theory that I have about like maybe this is what she's like. Who knows? But we'll see. Outside of that, like I said, it's gonna depend on like where we just need a direction of like where Mishima wants to take her character. Is he going to connect her to somebody in the current arc, or is it going to be a plot point that still hasn't come up, or is she going to invent her own plot point? I don't know. Leopold, Ironclad Chad is just spamming now. That's probably Nebs. I'm just saying that Rebecca beat Brittany and Lyra in the card game. Who don't want Lucy to look less confident than that. I mean, those are definitely not the same things. Like, she beat a smoke person with a vacuum, and she won a game with somebody who was cheating. Like, it was impressive for her to, think on her feet like that. But that's not like a battle. That because like the second Lyra actually started to fight, Rebecca was fucked. Rebecca was done the second that she was actually going to try and fight her. Lucy isn't losing. Yeah, I don't think she's losing. Kiriya is competing with Brandish for the most L's. I mean, Brandish only has one actual loss. Like, when did she actually otherwise lost? She lost against Demaria, but like her against Demaria is literally who gets their hacksaw first. Does she shrink Demaria first? Does Demaria stop time first? But outside of that, like, I want to count her gag moment because that's done for comedy. Yeah, Brandish. I don't think Brandish. Well, Brandish has less to fight because like if. I would say her versus Demaria was kind of a fight, but it's like their situation is literally who gets their hacksaw first. I think theirs is literally down to the wire of who wins that battle. That's true. She was gonna lose against Nineheart, but to be fair, that was Nineheart. She didn't lose. She was, and it was Nineheart buffed. It wasn't just Nineheart. Kiriya lost to Laxus, Urza, and Selene. She technically didn't. She lost a round to Urza, but she lost to Laxus because she got back up after she got knocked down by Urza. It's the same thing Madmul happened with Natsu. It's why I didn't say they lost. They lost a round. That's because it's like you can get knocked off your ass, and it's like okay, you come back for a round. But it's like if you're done, the fight's over. That's a different story. That's like that's it. The fight is done. If you come back for like an act like. There's like round 2 if a character comes up for like an actual rematch, and then there's just kind of like a round 2 of a specific fight, of the same fight. What's up, James Brandon? How are you doing today? Brandon has only lost once to Demaria. Yeah, she's only lost that one case. Dark Lord Aldermerg was impressed by Lucifer bleeding. He seemed like he was a little bit kind of like taking some attention to it. I have not watched Gravity Falls. I just know of it. I know the Bill Cipher dude. He's like a pyramid reality warper or something. Also, which fairy tale movie do you like more? Phoenix Priestess or Dragon Cry? Mine is Phoenix Priestess. I like the fights more in Dragon Cry, but I like the... let me think. I like the isolated story of Phoenix Priestess probably more. But Dragon Cry, I think, is way more valuable of a story for the actual series itself because it gives more valuable lore as well, and the fights were better and stuff. And it had I think, a more interesting world building on top of that. I think Phoenix Priestess just had more. I think Phoenix Priestess had more of an emotional plot line. I think it had way more of like a time digging invested style plot, whereas like Dragon Cry had way more of like the plot, like larger scale plot twists and important lore battles, world building. What else was in there? And I had an additional novel too, which is pretty cool. And it helped advance, and it advanced Dragon Slaying because it introduced 4th gen. Nevs, your posts are always very sus. I have to be careful with yours. Like 24 hours a day. Taking in how Dragon Force works in Natsu's form in Dragon Cry further upgrade Dragon Force. Also, the thing they don't mention in the movie is like in the the volume of that like Mishima did for the movie, like his whole like rough volume is just mostly like the plot and sketch work. They altered some of the stuff, but he mentions like the Dragon Cry is what does that to Natsu because the Dragon Cry has like dragon power, so it like forces him in that form temporarily. Whereas like Animus needed it to return to his full power. I don't think that was. It's like that was sort of Dragon Force, but I think that was more of like the Dragon Cry. That's why I usually just call it like Dragon Cry Natsu, because it's like it pretty much is Dragon Force, but outside of that, it mostly has to do with this one specific instance. Do you think Ziggy will truly be dealt with very soon? No, I don't. I do not think he's going to be. I think that the way that it's set up is Dead End Crow is going to be the main focus villain of this arc, and Ziggy is gonna be like, think of it like Dead End Crow is Darth Vader, and Ziggy is Palpatine, but more in the style of like imagine if this was the third one where it's like they were gonna fight the big bad guy, but instead if Palpatine, well, I guess he technically does escape, but if instead of getting thrown down he just teleports away. And Ziggy goes to be a villain in the next arc or something. Because it's very clear also that Mishima wants to get through the other Galactica. I don't think Act Noel is going to be a bad person. I'm guessing maybe Nox is going to be the last bad person, and then we're going to get Ziggy. Like maybe it'll be 2 arcs left of Eden Zero. I could see that, like 3 more years of Eden Zero. That makes sense. That to me would be like a pretty understandable kind of area, because I think Mishima said that he wanted it to kind of be somewhere around the like in between Fairy Tail and Wraith Master, and like he already said he doesn't want it to be as long as Fairy Tail, because Fairy Tail is obviously like still ongoing, and if you include all the canon content, it's got hundreds more chapters, and it actually ends at 545 and 100 plus 100 years quest. Gajul Levy and Dragon Cry felt a bit forced. I mean, they didn't really do a whole lot. He's just talking about Shinra. I mean, Shinra like Super and Mega God form, sure. I mean, that's like End Series Shinra. I gotta wait for End Series Natsu. Saki should fight Urza and Wendy. I don't think he's gonna fight Wendy. I'd be really surprised if Wendy popped up for that fight. I think that'd be cool, but I mean, like, I'd like that each of the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights, and to an extent with the other members of Diablos, have their own kind of like adversary. They have their own person their attention is focused on, and I've liked that. We have a proper stream later. Also, Rune Save work on Ether Gear, since Becky said Ether Gear is just magic. Well, it's all like just ether. It's just like you just kind of like ether and like very ether nano. Mishima's just using a similar energy source, but in a different manner. I mean, sure, but like he's got to hit him with Rune Save. Forgot when the other Dragon Slayers should have had more. I mean, Dragon Cry though like had more to do with the whole setup of the kingdom and laying out stuff with the dragons. And it had a lot to do with Natsu, and I thought that was more important. Like, Gajil's cool, but obviously Gajil isn't the main character of the movie. Gajil gets his own moments, but Natsu had more of his own focus for this one. And I think that one is fine, because Natsu didn't have the same main character focus in the first one. I think it felt way more for Lucy with her whole interactions with Eclair, because Natsu didn't really have any personal stuff going on in that movie, whereas in Dragon Cry he did, and we saw stuff with like Igneel and whatnot, the stuff with the dragons, we had stuff about like him not caring about what happens to his body as long as he's able to, to fight for his friends and protect them, doing the whole Natsu thing, not giving a shit of the state of what happens to him afterwards. I want Gray to grow devil wings. I don't know if he needs wings. I think what Gray would get, what Gray should get instead of wings, it should be something that benefits his way of fighting. Like, imagine if Gray had, what if Gray had, ice spikes coming out of his back? Like, imagine these giant ice spikes kind of, curving upwards, and he was able to pretty much just grab one and then just pull, and it just turns into whatever he's making it as ice makes. Almost like what's that one spell from Fate or Unlimited Blade Works? But imagine it's instead of all these portals, he's just essentially grabbing ice and it's just forming into whatever he wants it to, at will. And maybe he can combine them to do other things or something. I don't know, there's possibility in there. But Mishima hasn't given Gray any new forms. The thing that's frustrated me about Gray, power-wise, is Gray hasn't gotten anything additional. He's not as bad as Gajul, or Gajul hasn't gotten anything new to his moveset since, permanently to his moveset. He hasn't gotten anything permanently to his moveset since, the Grand Magic Games? Because the Steel and Dragon Force versions, they didn't stay. Those were temporary. He hasn't, we don't know what Gajul, has, additional. It's frustrating when characters don't get new things to their stuff. Even Elfman got a new form. And I like Elfman, but, I know Elfman hasn't been relevant in the story in eons. So, it's he gave new stuff to Elfman before we gave stuff to Gray. And it makes me wonder, is he just not giving Gray anything new? What is his plan with Gray? Does he have a plan with Gray? Is it something he's waiting for? I don't really know. I would do my own manga if I could draw, but I have no artistic abilities. We ever see a Jalal fight without Grand... Oh, there's no way we're going to see one without Grand Chariot, but if we're going to see ones where he uses more spells... the thing is, we need Jalal to have a fight where it's a fight. An actual battle. Because the thing is, we saw his fight with Gears, but think of, the last time we got, an actual focused fight with Jalal. Because Gears wasn't a focused fight. He got caught in an ability, and then he had to work through it. It was more of it was a fight, but also more to do, figure out how to get through this hacks, but also a character development fight. Where, if Jalal could get a fight, kind of like how Lucy's at right now, where it's, an actual focused... Yeah, there's a back and forth going on between these two characters, not just Jalal stomping. We'll see more spells of his, and probably see, new spells that we haven't seen yet. The thing is, Grand Chariot is just his go-to, so, in a fight where it's just, I just need to body this guy real quick. Outside of, maybe using Sema or something, but I feel that would take too long. Just using Grand Chariot makes sense. So it's we just need a situation where Grand Chariot is not enough. If we get in a situation where Jalal can use Grand Chariot and the opponent tanks it, maybe if he shows up and fights some Dragon Slayers, maybe question mark, then I would say that's the best opportunity for, okay, we're going to get more from Jalal. We're going to get more abilities. We're going to get more showings of what, more showings of his moveset rather than just Grand Chariot. Grand Chariot, though, is, it's an impressive spell. It's iconic. I'm a big fan. Who wins, Naruto or Ichigo? I would put my money on Ichigo for sure. We're thinking that Gray is the only one in Team Natsu that doesn't fly. I mean, Natsu flies with Gray, though. Hey, what do you mean that doesn't fly? What Lucy doesn't... I mean, Lucy kind of hovers. I guess, with her Stardress mix, Leo, Virgo form. That would be cool if she just had free-range flight in that form. I think that'd be great. But I think Mishima is, giving free-range flight to Wendy. Whereas, and obviously the Exceed. But, I mean, Gray doesn't really need it. He just makes ice platforms or snipe people. Gajul and Gray versus Kieran. Well, we've got to wait for stuff for them first. So we don't even know too much about Kieran. Right now, I would probably put it on Kieran. Lucy never got any wins in 100 Years Quest. That's not true. Lucy has tons of wins throughout Normal Fairy Tail. Lucy defeated Jack Lee at Angel Flare. She defeated Sherry too. She defeated Big Slow. She defeated Byro. Who else? Let me think of some more solid wins for Lucy. I mean, Lucy. I think Lucy legitimately. I was thinking some of the spring fire, but it's like, yeah, Marin Hollow. Marin just countered the living hell out of Lucy. That wasn't fair whatsoever. Like that's just a not for like Marin Hollow. I feel bad for like any spatial people that would just run into him and be like, this guy's that strong, but it's like, oh, this guy just hard counters the shit out of you. It's like, well, fuck me then. Lizana got, yeah, it's true. Lizana did get 2 new forms. Oh, Lizana, I'm fine with Lizana getting 2 new forms because Lizana is just like the. You just want to give her a pat on the back of like, why did we bring you back to do nothing? Why did we bring you back? Like, you got some anime scenes, but like, why did we bring you back not to do too much, Lizana? What do you think of the Black Clover chapter? I thought it was fine. I mean, it was about what I expected. The Lucifaro form was a little weird, considering he just got a little pointy, little pokey, and then he got shorts on. Lucy technically defeated the Phantom Lord Guildmaster. I mean, sort of. I mean, Lucy's done a lot. Hopefully they both get something soon. Natsu, Urza, and Wendy been hogging up on her quest. Oh, Natsu really hasn't. Natsu's has been more of like build-up stuff with Ignia, and now his whole like battle with Suzaku. But I would say like in terms of like Ray's got a lot of character stuff. Lucy and Wendy have gotten the most ability wise, for sure. They've gotten the most abilities. Lucy might have gotten the most like general upgrade, like just general quality of life improvements to her moveset and like just her abilities and capabilities in general. Because Wendy, we already knew where she was kind of at. We knew that she just, Wendy wasn't fully there because she is like, Wendy can fight, but she is most talented in her support. Whereas like Lucy didn't have anything for her to really kind of sit in that general area at that time, and now she's getting like really good feats to really put her up. So we'll see. In Lumens and Galaxy, also turned to stars. Mario seems to stronger than Mario. Oh, you know what I know like Super Mario Galaxy feats are kind of crazy. How many Fairy Tail characters can still the Narutoverse? I mean, the Dragon Gods, but then like, I mean, Fairy Tail Seraph is just broken though. I mean, that's probably it though. Ankh Saram, I would assume. Roselle, also one characters. I mean, Fuego is doing worse. Fuego's probably doing worse. I'm ready for Urza to get another boost. I think it's like, I really liked. I had a video I did on Urza with like if she gets more swords with like enchantments from guild members. I kind of want that for Urza because I don't really know what else she's gonna do to upgrade her powers and abilities moving forward. What exactly is she going to develop that? Like outside of just getting a new armor, because I don't think she just needs to get new armors, like unless she can fuse her armors. But like I feel like that's just getting too close to what Lucy's doing. I feel like the best thing for Urza would be, like I said, just giving her swords for different people in the guild. I think that would be really cool. Like say she gets like she gets something for like a dragon iron, like an iron dragon sword, where it's just like, oh, this is a sword that like pretty much will, it will be more durable against metal. So it's like it'll never break against like another metal thing because whatever its enchantment is, or something with like I wonder what Elfman's would be, or like Mirror Jane's. I guess like with Mirror Jane you can give her like a demon sword as well. But what would you get out of Elfman? Just a manly sword, I guess. You get a sword that gives plus 20 to manliness. The thing is, like, I'm fine with Urza getting new armors, but it's like, I don't want her to just to get a new armor ability every time. I'm fine with her getting new swords, because it's super logical in the way that she could literally say, hey, Wendy, let's go talk to Levy. And Levy puts an enchantment on a sword, kind of like how, the version we saw back in Sirius Island with Yamazu and Kawazu, or one of their names I always get mispronounced. He put his whole Oriental solid script on a sword. Maybe Urza could have a sword like that, where it has like a version of like that ability. Like she could get this literally just by going around the guild hall and talking to people, and Wendy just enchanting one of their spells into a sword for Urza. And I think that's more interesting than just giving her a new thing, because it would be really cool to see Urza fight with like side character powers. Like imagine seeing Urza with an ability from a character we don't really ever see, like Lackey, who's got wood make, so we have a wood sword. I don't know what's gonna actually. That would just make me think of like the sword that just happened in Black Clover. Or who's another character be cool? Or like Freed. Like, what if she had a sword that like she swung it and runes came out, so she could instill like runic rules onto people when she hits them. Well, just imagine it's like a sword where just there's tons of words moving around them, and she like flings words like weapons, or I guess runes. And it's like you get hit by one, and it says like this person can't walk for 5 minutes or some shit. I think that'd be crazy. Either way, like abilities like that, because it'd be cooler for her just to have, for her to do it. And on top of that, it'd be more logical for her to do easier than just go out and she can go buy more armors, but like how much harder is that than just walking across the guild and be like, oh, who's here today? Who can I ask to get like a new enchanted sword from? Can Ziggy use gravity on Chronophage to make it powerful on him? I don't think so. I think that'd be too broken. I'm not a huge fan of gravity drain. I think Mishima has to be careful with that because it's a dangerous ability to have in the story. Because like I mentioned, if he gets in a situation where he sees Wise, I don't think there's any logical plot reason that Ziggy would not say, I'm going after that guy. I'm going to take that power from him. Fuck that guy. Because it's like the best power for him. Machina Maker is the best power for him. So it's like, it's worrisome. There's obviously two Wises out there, but it's like, he should logically, the second he like that crosses into his computer head, he should be like, yeah, that, let's go. We're going to go get that. I'm going to go take that. But, yeah, outside of that, I'm worried of what he can do with it. Because it sets up it just sets up an area that's really scary of like what he could do story wise. Not for like how powerful he could become. Again, it's more of like I said with Wise, it's more of like in a spot where it's like he logically should do this in a plot situation, and it's dangerous because it sets like a big red target over certain characters. Like imagine if he goes and takes Noah's God Eye. Or Feathers. Like it's just something that completely changes his capabilities at such a sudden turn, which is cool, but at the same time it's a very dangerous plot point to have. It's like when a plot or it's like when a mangaka that doesn't normally do time travel introduces something with time travel, and you're just like, oh god. You don't know, because time travel is one of the fastest ways to mess up a series. Mishima is one of the people that I know I can trust with time shenanigans because he's so experienced with time shenanigans stuff, and he usually sets up his own rules and whatnot, so he doesn't like run into a bunch of self-created problems. But it's one of those same things where it makes you worried. You're just like, okay, I need to take a moment and just be careful. Because again, like what if he grabs something that just makes him way more broken, and not just from a power level standpoint, but from a structural standpoint of like, okay, now it's gonna be. Because like imagine if he gets God Eye and he could just find Shiki anywhere. What do? Like something like that. Like that's a good example. He just know where Shiki is all the time. There's no way escaping him at that point. Like an ice sword or a double slayer sword. Yeah, they just give us up. Rex used to find Acnologia losing controversy. I mean, people, the thing is, like, it was definitely rushed. Like, I'm not going to deny that his fight was rushed. It was obviously, like, Mishima picked up the pace very heavily in that second half of the Alvarez arc. I can't control that. I can't change that. But he was beaten in a logical way because we know what does drastically cripple Dragon Slayers. It is a weakness. It doesn't matter their power level. It is a weakness. The only ones we've seen that aren't affected by it are 5th gen. So Acnologia, a 1st generation Dragon Slayer, is still going to have this crippling weakness. And the only way we know that you can get around it is 5th generation Dragon Slaying. And it makes sense Acnologia would eat dragons because he hated them. He found them to be disgusting. He even said it. When he went in, he said it stinks of dragons. He was a dragon racist. But it's like he had they exploited his drastic weakness. That's a fact. As much as I would have liked more of a big battle, I think that I would have liked a big battle that ended like that. But I was fine with how it happened because it meant 100 Years Quest, the dragons or the dragon gods aren't going to just be run over by Natsu because that gap still exists because they didn't just beat him in a straight 1v1 fight. It was a group fight where they had to do a big combo attack while putting him in a spot where he was dramatically weakened.
Apparently, people can calculate the Black Clover twins that Astanak fought. Kind of, no, they aren't. Like, I've seen people do attempts. They're goofy. I'm not even gonna bother. If you run a calculation to find Mother, then shouldn't Ultimate always be able to find her genius?
Well, it just depends, because like he's using a, like, he's not just using like his own brain. He's using the processing power of a super advanced mega spaceship. Like, as far as we know, the Eden Zero is the Eden's One is the most advanced ship in the series. The known series, the Eden's One is the most advanced ship. So dedicating the entire ship just to that probably has a lot of, like, I don't know exactly what that does for processing power. I'm not going to act like I have an understanding of the gap between what it does other than just more components and more computers and memory and whatever.
But like, I know that it's just a bigger number. Even chumps like Aragorn got longer fights than Akalogia.
I mean, Akalogia's fight was short. I would have liked it just to be longer, but I mean, like, I understand to a degree that Mishima was definitely rushing, but I like that he's like fixing up a lot of stuff with like 100 Years Quest, and he's fixing up a lot of the vibes, a lot of the hype, and a lot of the positioning with a lot of the characters. I don't know if he's gonna disarm her. That's like a really interesting question for it, because it's like, I can see her losing an arm. I don't think she's going to, but I could see it happening. Like, it's a really intriguing plot point. Again, I would say no, but I could see it being a possibility. Can Wendy enchant Urza's sword with Lorcade's Lust magic? Yeah, like, she can just enchant magic into things. Well, it's not like it's a pleasure magic. It's a different thing. The problem I had with the Agnologi was he was taking all their attacks, and then we can combination attack. Yeah, because he was weakened by motion sickness. The motion sickness dramatically weakens Dragon Slayers across the board, because it completely screws up their ability to use magic entirely, which makes it so their stats and capabilities all fall down tremendously. It's just something that completely weakens them across the board in all aspects. It's a really double-edged sword. If they were in the situation, it's a strong magic, but the weakness is what really offsets it. It's like, it's not the same thing as Devil Fruits in One Piece, because that's like across the whole board of that power system. You eat one, no swimming. But it's like, it's the balance for this specific branch. So, well, I guess most of this branch of magic is 5th gen. I guess he can make a horny. They can technically make a horny sword. Can Urza gain Irene's dragon slaying powers? I don't think so. We don't want Lucifaro to do. I want my hope. I want Lucifaro to do a Presence of the Demon King name spell, and I want to see like a pan out of the camera angle where we see this. We see above them, and then we see a larger scale. We see larger scale. We see the spade, and then we see the 4 kingdoms, and we see the whole 4 kingdoms shake. And he's just pressing all 4 kingdoms. I want that. I don't want anything like, I don't need Lucifaro to be like, I'll pull the sun into the planet. I want something that's like believable in his power level, but impressive, but also is a new step for Black Clover. I want that. I want a new big level feat for them that isn't just me saying like, I want them to start throwing black holes into space and making super quasars come down, whatever. But anyway, I'm gonna call it good here. I'm just gonna call it for that the 1 hour into this one. I gotta do the Eden Zero, Dora, Noron, and Four Knights reviews today before I get to work. So I just wanted to do this one, and I enjoy this. Again, I'm genuinely surprised that Kiri is doing better than I expected, and I'm looking forward to see where this is going. If something happens to Lucy, like, again, an arm loss, or she loses, I'll be surprised. But outside of that, other than that, you guys have a good one. I'll talk to you guys later. We'll have an actual stream on Saturday, maybe. I'll try and get back into, like, my normal schedule. And so soon I'll have a short break, but it won't be that long. It'll be like a week break that I have to take off. But I'll prepare a couple videos for the channel to put out during that time. What else? Next stream I'll probably do on Saturday. Maybe Wednesday. We'll see. No, probably not Wednesday. Probably Saturday. Friday or Saturday